Hey everyone, before we kick this episode off, I urge everyone listening to like and subscribe to our podcast, wherever you may get your podcast from. So if you listen to us on iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating, or also subscribe to us on Spotify. And I urge all of our listeners to head to our website, and you can get more than just our podcast from there. We have news stories all the time there. We have feature articles there. So head to tnpmedia.au. That's tnpmedia.au. All right, without further ado, we'll get stuck into the podcast.
Talk and Power, your motorsport and motoring radio show. Now on 88.5 FM, The Valley Comes Alive. And podcasting across iTunes and talkandpower.com.au.
Talk and Power Podcast, episode 210. We're off to a great start here. I am co-host Nick DeTrimbre, joined with co-host over there, Simon Gonzo Travellini, and Michelle Morrison over there. How are we, Simon and Michelle?
Good, Nick.
That's good.
Doing good.
Going well? That's
Living
good.
the dream.
Whose dream is it?
Mine, apparently. I just didn't know it.
Good to hear. Good to hear. What's been happening, Simon?
I had a day off.
A day off?
Yeah,
Jeez.
yeah.
It's not like you.
I'm sure you deserved it.
I don't know. My wife would argue differently. So I planned to watch the Formula One, but I ended up bird spotting. Saw lots of ducks. lots
of ducks and lots of ponchos.
Yeah.
Ponchos.
Rain, hail and shine, right? All three. Typical Melbourne.
Yeah, I know. They just should have started a bit later when the sun came out. Did you guys think about the environmental impact of all of those throwaway raincoats? There was literally tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of those.
Yeah, I guess that's a reoccurring issue across a lot of sport, though, isn't it?
I didn't give it
Except drag racing. The most environmentally friendly sport out there.
I didn't give it a moment's thought, to be honest with you. But
there was literally tens, if not hundreds of thousands of those, clear plastic.
Were they giving them away?
Yeah.
Or did people just bring their own?
No. They were handing them out.
I think that's the first mistake.
yeah,
I think they come on a roll.
Well,
You just tear them off.
If the weather was predicted to rain, how come you can't give away plastic bags at the shops and you're expected to bring your own? Like, if you have a look at the weather forecast, bring your
That's
rain
exactly
jacket.
what I was thinking. They banned plastic bags, and in one day, Victoria's made more plastic pollution than the whole country.
it's funny you should say that, because I was at after the Formula One race. I don't know why, but I tortured myself and went to the Eagles game yesterday, and after the game, there wasn't a soul left there except for myself and my wife and kids. But anyway, and in the stands, the amount of waste, rubbish.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you noticed, the wind was strong all day yesterday.
Yeah, it was.
But we got a gust, when all the people weren't there, we got a gust of wind, and rubbish was hitting me in the face. That's how bad it was. Literally, tons of rubbish must get removed from that place.
Yeah.
Every single game. It's actually quite sad.
Yeah, it's always a bit... I feel as if there's never enough bins around that I almost wonder whether they like you to collect it and
I throw it
leave
away.
it.
Well, no, I always throw it away. I take my rubbish, but I only take...
Yeah.
I've never, ever gone to any event, sporting, music, anything like that, and left rubbish around me.
I don't
Cinemas.
like doing it, but there seems to be a lot of places that don't have enough rubbish bins for what they have with seating. So, yeah, I'm not really sure what their message is trying to be, because when I think of places like something's coming to mind, and I can't think of what it is. They wouldn't have bins because they didn't want things put in them that would then end in a
landfill.
No, I'm talking more on like explosion-wise.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Shopping centres are like that.
Yeah, so then it might have been not in this country that I'm thinking of. But yeah, there was something that made me like have that thought, and it's the whole, you know, you can only open the bins so far as well.
Yeah.
And I know that in our parklands, that's because of the birds and wildlife and everything. But yeah, there has been places that I've been to, and it's like, where are the bins? Like, where am I supposed to put this? And then it's just like collected kind of, you try and put your stuff all together inside each other and put it with someone else's and everything like that. But yeah, I think there's a bit of a...
There's a lot of places like that.
Yeah.
Most of the shops, they might have something in where the veggie section is, you know, to put the lettuce leaves or something, but no other bins, banks, government buildings, and that's exactly... I got told by a security guard once. I had a wrapper, and I said, "Is there a bin somewhere?" And he said, "You're going to have to take it outside."
Yeah.
And that's why. That's why they do it. There you go.
Interesting, isn't it? Anyway, we digress.
But it doesn't excuse people at the football or at
it's bad. It's really bad at the footy.
You know.
And I'm wondering, because I didn't see it myself, but at the F1s, if they're like handing these out, if they're adding this impact onto the environment, were they branding them?
No.
Did they
they're
tie
clear.
into their branding and everything as well?
They didn't look though. They didn't look branded to me.
No, they were just clear.
Yeah, I just think that people should be encouraged to bring their own.
Yeah, I mean, I was sitting there with my kids saying, "These people have paid thousands of dollars to be there in the rain."
And you can just imagine how many like Melbourne socialites all dressed up with their designer labels and everything, only to cover it with a poncho.
Funny you should mention that. Have you guys heard of Mike Cameron Brooks?
No, I can't say I have.
No. He is one of Australia's first, I think possibly him and his partner were the first Australian tech billionaires. They founded a company... I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this correctly, and I don't apologise. It's called Atlassian.
Atlassian. I'm aware of Atlassian. It's a software program.
Okay, yeah. It's a networking.
Well, I mean, a lot of big companies use it. I work at Notre Dame use it, and we communicate with our IT with it. But you can also communicate with the rest of your staff, and there's a lot involved.
So he's an eco warrior. This Mike Cameron Brooks. Okay, he famously called Malcolm Turnbull was on a show just after he'd been replaced as Prime Minister, and he famously called into the show and put Malcolm Turnbull on the spot, saying, "Hey, you're a billionaire, I'm a billionaire. Let's get together and let's save the world. You know, let's do all this stuff and reduce CO2 and blah blah blah." Okay, so Mike Cameron Brooks took his private jet from his home in Brisbane to Melbourne. I don't know who else was on there. Okay, so this is an eco warrior guy, right? That's flying a private jet. Okay, so I did some rough maths. So I found what model jet it was and worked out that he would have used. So for the 854 nautical mile trip, you know, point to point, he would have used 3,558 US gallons of Jet A, which is kerosene, right, on his private jet, each way, okay? And he would have released 13.664 metric tons of CO2 each way.
It seems like a lot of fuel, but is that what
they only
it's not very efficient.
No, they get like it's 4 gallons to the mile or something. It's terrible. Jets are bad. But, you know, because when I did the figures, I was going, that's terrible. But then you think about it and you go, well, you know, it is kind of like flying a house. You think about the size of a jet.
Yeah, fair enough.
You know what I mean? Like they weigh...
But when it's up there, you know?
So they say. But cars are bad. Remember that, Nick. Cars are bad. Nah. So I thought to myself, you know, Mr. Eco Warrior there trying to save the world and ringing up Malcolm Turnbull and saying, hey, us billionaires will get together, we'll kill all the CO2, we'll destroy all of that in our private jet. Anyway, so I worked out that if you got a typical I-30, which, you know, mum and dads drive all over the place, and you did that same trip in the I-30, you would only release between 160 and 190 kilos Right, not metric tons. Right, kilos of. So, Mike, if you're listening out there, good job, mate. Keep it up. Keep saving the world. With your eco worrying.
And how long's that drive? It's
not
8
that-
hours.
it's not that
Melbourne
long.
to Sydney, but then is it 8 hours Sydney to
But
Queensland?
Yeah, it's probably about
is there a-
20 hours, with breaks and stuff.
Like, surely there's business along the way that he could.
No, but he could have just caught a jet with everyone else. He didn't have to take a private one. At least there's going to be...
People drive up to Carnarvon all the time. Like, you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
little bit further
Yeah.
than that trip, but seriously.
I know, but even if you don't want to... Like, you can't stand there and say, I'm going to do all these great things, for the world and save the planet and then take private jets. It's like when we had the big economic crisis there and all the CEOs flew to Washington in private jets and, one of the senators said, couldn't you have jet pooled?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But look, I mean, you've used an i30 there. I probably wouldn't have used an i30. Like, he's a billionaire, the guy. So give him the pleasure of taking a
He probably drives a
VA.
Tesla.
club sport or something. You know what I mean?
He probably drives a Tesla, Nick.
Probably not.
Or a
Everyone's selling those
Camaro.
off, aren't they?
Well, you know
Yeah, that's
what?
true.
Did you listen to the ABC the other day?
Haven't seen the ABC's article,
This-
but have seen the stocks absolutely plummet.
Well,
Yeah.
it's twofold now. It's twofold because the ABC did a special report on 7:20 a.m. I was out in the bush, so that's why I was listening to 7:20 a.m. But there's now a new phenomenon where Tesla owners are targeted
Yeah.
Yes.
by left-wing activists.
I know. It's ironic because it was only, 12 months ago where we were trying to save petrol-burning cars and being told by the same people that are attacking Tesla owners, Tesla dealerships, that we're bad for driving cars that run on gasoline and the Tesla was the future. And now, because of Doge, it's just ridiculous. It just shows you how pathetic humanity is.
So did you know this as well? Listen to this one. You can buy yourself now so if you've got a Tesla, you can buy yourself a kit. And the kit it's a sticker kit, a decal kit. And you can turn your Tesla into an Audi. So you take the Tesla labels off and you can fit them with Audi or BMW stickers, and they reckon that's good enough because the left wingers they don't actually know what a Tesla looks like. Oh, that's all right. It's an Audi. Leave him alone. So the kit is no joke. I wasn't joking about that.
The dealerships, though, and for them to think that that's okay. There's human beings that work at those dealerships.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're going in there, setting fire to cars.
Yeah, they're having to put the dealerships into lockdown and everything. Like,
It's a massive problem in Australia. The Tesla Owner Club, the president came on there on ABC as well. And look, at the end of the day, he made some valid points, but it's really funny how this world is shifting. It's not like over the years. It's now over days.
You had a big week, Nick.
I did have a big week. Yeah, that's why I'm a little bit underdone for this podcast, to be honest with you. So yeah, no, we did have a big week. We had a couple of car events going on in the Swan Valley, and then we left from Mount Hawthorn to Swan Valley. Had a big night at the Civic. You know the Civic Hotel, the Milk Bar.
Absolutely 100% know the Civic Hotel, Nick.
Yeah,
Inglewood.
Inglewood, the Milk Bar there, Noiseworks tribute night. That was actually quite good. And we're supposed to have a Days of Thunder movie night at the drive-ins on Thursday night, but that storm put an end to that. So that has been postponed till Wednesday. And next Wednesday the 26th, I'll talk about that a bit later on in the podcast when we talk about what's coming up. That's with Northern Steel, Perth Car Club, and the Valiant RNS Series Car Club as well. Days of Thunder, the 1990 version.
Nick, before we get into the Formula One, we have to talk about Bob Tasker III and his remarkably accurate comments.
Yeah, so I this came up. I saw on YouTube. All it said was Bob Tasker has his say, and I thought, I like Bob Tasker. I'll have a listen. And I was not expecting that. I was not expecting him to. It was quite an outburst from him, don't you think? So he's upset with his Fox Sports. How they haven't painted. Well, they've started. Fox Sports, as we know, this year have now got the rights to IndyCar. IndyCar was previously on NBC in the United States. It's now on Fox Sports.
And IndyCar has had a really checkered history as being the disabled cousin of Formula One in a way.
But I mean, when you say disabled's probably not the right word.
Well, there was a time there where they had V6 Buick engines in them.
Yeah, physically challenged.
But I think what you're referring to is they're changing. Like there was numerous leagues that came out.
Yes, there was
splinter groups.
Yes.
It was ugly there in the 90s, wasn't it?
It
Paul
was
Tracy's,
just the whole thing was terrible, and that everyone knew that an F1 team, a European F1 team back in those days, could have easily gone there and kicked their asses when they were still driving sprint cars around the track there with Offenhauser 4 cylinders. And I guess Fox now is trying to build it up. Personally, myself, I think the cars are ugly. They look like something out of Speed Racer.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of so they've gone the next level with the halo and actually enclosed the cockpit section.
Yeah.
I'm not a overly big fan of it. I wasn't a big fan of the halo, to be honest with you. Canopy car. And look, I mean,
I think they stole that from Top Fuel, didn't
they? They did, yeah, they did. They were the second to it. I'll read out what Bob Tasker III actually said at the most recent Gainesville Gator Nationals. I want to say it to the fans. I'm very disappointed with Fox Sports. All winter we heard about the fastest motorsports on planet. And I was a little confused because I didn't see that PPG Mustang when I saw that ad. And I didn't see that Proc car over there. Truth is that it's an insult to our fans and to the drivers for Fox to go on TV and say the fastest motorsport in the world and it's IndyCar? Come on now. I didn't think that it was fake news network on Fox.
Well, look, other than land speed records... the truth is that drag racing is the fastest motorsport on the planet.
100% factual, has not been able... Scotty McLaughlin had a bit of a comment to say on Twitter, or X as we call it now, but there wasn't much to come back with because the facts are the facts.
Not just that. If I was Bob Tasker, I would have replied to that comment and said, why don't you come and do a lap? Because I'll tell you now... Scotty McLaughlin would not be able to hold his foot flat in one of those cars.
No.
I will put money down. and then what happens? And then it's like, so IndyCar drivers are really, not really that good compared to a funny car driver.
Or we'll talk about the difference between a drag racer at heart and a circuit motorsport person at heart a little bit later
Particularly
on.
IndyCar turning left. That's
well, I was going to say
NASCAR without a passenger.
It's a little bit closer to home, this one, but anyway, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that one shortly. But look, I completely agree. I think Bob Tasker is a very passionate person. It come across. Have you watched it? It's
I saw it.
Very passionate, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that Bob Tasker, he usually isn't one to stir conflict or anything like that. He's
I'm 50-50 on that one.
He's the manifold's still ringing in my
ears.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I was thinking about. Something to do with the colour of the manifold.
I feel as if he's always presented with his interviews at least. I don't know, maybe not. But it was a firm statement, and he's been getting a lot of support by other racers as well that have come, they've been posting on social media saying that they back and support the comments that he's made. And
this is made widestream media. This is
I thought that it was really
media.
good because as much as it was played on the recording, whether it was live or the NHRA program to view the whole segment event, but then they actually made it its own clip as well on the NHRA YouTube. And so when they clip out just like the highlights of the events, they had that Bob Tascar's comment, his interview, just as its own, which I think that's a good way for the NHRA to say to the racers, like, we've got your back on this, that they agree.
But it's true. I mean, they're like 100 mile an hour fast.
Yeah. So there's a big difference.
It's just whether then, the NHRA would publicly stand.
Well, that's what I was just about to ask you.
Or whether they would just kind of go, oh, well, we'll just let you say that and you can air it on the program. And
because how valuable is the TV rights to the NHRA? How they have to balance it up as well, don't they?
Yeah,
they have to be mindful that they're not alienating.
But why is it, Nick? Why is it that drag racing, particularly in a world that's losing focus by the minute, people want to see things that are over like that. They want to get that instant gratification. Why is it that drag racing is not the number one motorsport in the world? Is it because it's too accessible? Is that the problem?
Do you think it's too accessible? I don't know.
I think it like when you say in the world, drag racing in Europe is very different to how it is in Australia, and Europe and Australia is very different to how it is in America. And I just think that there is different demographics of where the motorsport targets in America. So, it's big over there. It could be bigger, but would you say another sporting event over there is at the same size that would be targeting the same demographic? I don't know. I think that it's very different for their audience reach as much as there is that overlap. You want to look at that kind of Venn diagram thing where you've got all the circles and then they join in the middle, and that's the ones that the audience that will follow all three.
You'd have to argue that the NASCAR is bigger based on how much the drivers get paid. The Tony Stewarts and the like. They're worth hundreds of millions of dollars, if not more.
Yeah, it's. I think for me, my takeaway is like with NASCAR, how much of the increments and details are the spectators and fans actually following along with, or are they just watching the on-track action? With drag racing, it's really about seeing that the increments that then result in the wins and understanding that side of it. And so I feel as if it is that
to us it
different
is.
reach. Well, yeah.
To us it is, but I don't know if the average punter on the hill.
Look, I don't, that's a tough one to answer. I don't know the answer to that. But you know what I saw at the World Series of Pro Mod, and I believe it's the first time they've done it, and if it's not, I apologise, but it's the first time I've taken notice of it, was the incrementals came up on the screen as the car was going down the track. And it went green, red, whatever it may have been. Yeah. Whoever was leading at that incremental went green, and whoever was behind...
In 3 seconds.
Yeah,
but exactly right.
That might have triggered some...
No, but it was...
Epilepsy.
Believe it or not, so you could quickly define who had the quicker reaction time. They went green, red. And you could see, so if the green stayed green all the way along, you knew that...
wire to wire.
Yeah, but it was... Okay. If you see this going on, you know that there's... it was a really close race.
You could do like a little 2-bar line and have it as a...
Yeah, even
that, to show, okay...
It was at the incrementals.
NHRA does that anyway.
Do they?
Well, they show it at the end.
Yeah.
But is it... in time as it going down.
I don't know if it's
with
live.
All the change of the camera angles and everything like that, I feel like my attention would get lost if I'm supposed to be following this bar that's increasing down the bottom.
I found myself looking at it probably too much.
Yeah, more than watching the actual pass.
You think about drag racing compared to at the top, compared to Formula One, for example, right? Formula One, they do a motor. That's that's the end, right? Drag racing, they put a new motor, well, they don't put a new motor in, but they rebuild the engine every lap.
And the spectators and fans can actually see that.
In the
and
pits.
be
They
there.
can stand around and watch it.
They can pass the tools in some teams.
Yeah.
Yeah. IndyCar, for them to get to 200 mile an hour, they got to do a lap or two.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These things are over 340 now, mile an hour, in 1,000 foot in 3.5 seconds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All these other types of cars, they might have 1,000 horsepower. I heard some Formula One commentators saying, that's 1,000 horsepower in a wet. Okay, well that's all right. There's 12,000 horsepower. You know what I mean? The numbers are just, that looks like a kid's toy compared to a top fuel car.
Yeah. I agree with what you're saying. That's actually a good segue, if you don't mind. Can we segue?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's segue from there to Peter Zibris. I want to talk about Peter Zibris because he, to me, defined he's a drag racer, and we know he's a drag racer.
Yep.
He races top fuel. So I don't know if you noticed the Supercar race was cancelled yesterday because it was too wet, too much rain. And Peter Zibris was probably one of the only team owners that disagreed with that, felt that they should have raced.
Yep. Cars
should have hit the track. And he said basically, his words were, I didn't realise this was a sunny day sport. So a lot of the talk was because the cars need to leave for New Zealand in 3 days' time.
Yep.
The reality is, if you can't get the car fixed in time, then you shouldn't commit to Supercars or the calendar that comes with it.
So that's what it was about.
Yeah. So, and I agree with Peter. And like Peter puts a top fueler down, he could put a top fueler down a goat's track. So, and this is the difference between, in my mind, drag racer and big business supercars.
This is what corporate motorsports has become.
Yeah, exactly. They're not racing for the fans, but drag racers race for fans.
But maybe they need to be honest with the fans then and say, well, you know what? When it rains, we can't race and we're going to call it quits.
It was heavy rain. I'd give them that. It was heavy rain, and they cancelled the F2 and F3 race.
Well, the F2, I think that they had that many restarts that they just ran out of fuel.
I think that was F3, but I think...
No, F2. They went around and then they drove back into pits and then they went around.
I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because a lot of those kids are young kids and their experience level is probably less than... Some of them are just new to F2 and F3.
Are you listening to this?
Whose fault is that?
Hang on a second, these guys are going to be driving Formula One cars.
It's probably best that they do it in Formula 2 before they go into Formula 1s.
But would you agree then Isaac Hadjar, has gone in too fast? He crashed on the formation lap.
Yep. And so did Carlos Sainz.
Well, Carlos Sainz was under safety car, but anyway. But they're not. I guess my argument is kind of validated as well. Is the fact that these kids are probably not experienced enough. But supercar drivers, you can't tell me that Will Davison and Brody Kostecki are scared to take their car out in the rain.
No. But I will bring you back to a certain Bathurst.
Yeah.
Where there was a GDR and a Sierra.
1992.
And I do believe that on the entry to Conrod Strait, I think it was. Mount Elbow or something, is that what it's called? Yeah. They ended up being a car... Forest Elbow. Ended up being a car park of smashed cars, including the ultimate race winner in the Nissan GDR.
Yeah, look, I take your point on there. I do. I take that on board. But I also feel that it's a short race. It's only, how many laps was it? It's only a handful of laps. Surely they could have raced.
I didn't see how heavy the rain was.
It was fairly heavy. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
It's hard to comment on there, but if they're saying that they're questioning whether their drivers are experienced or not,
No, I don't think it was that. I just think they didn't want to bend their cars.
They didn't want to risk
But
wrecking
one of
with the quick turnaround.
Yeah, well, one of the biggest shareholders in the sport, Peter Zibra, says no. We should have raced. The car should have hit the track.
Yeah, it's interesting whether they had a team vote or, like they did for the Speedway.
Yeah.
To see how many people were actually happy to continue on.
Geez, it'd be nice if we got that at the drags. Do you guys think
Yeah.
the track's good enough today? Nah. Let's just split the prize money and go home.
Never mind about the weather.
Anyway, look, while we're here, let's cover Formula One from Albert Park. We'll
Just
jump around.
before we go into that, right?
Yeah.
Your comments, I don't think any of the Formula 2 cars crashed on the formation lap. Am I incorrect saying that?
I don't think so.
No, they didn't. They didn't. So, yeah, not sure. Now, with regards to the supercars, yes, you're right. They probably should have run. But I think a lot of the problem that they had, and this was kind of mentioned briefly in the Channel 10 telecast and was alive and well in other places in the internet, that's normally a street, and there's white paint, right, directing arrows, etc., lanes and so on. Apparently, when they painted over it, they didn't use the correct paint, and that is what caused a lot of those crashes.
Yeah.
I mean, the white paint that's on the roads, if it's in a large area, that doesn't usually have the grip to it as it is, let alone
Correct.
if they're painting new ones on.
Yeah, they painted over that, and apparently they didn't use it. This is the rumour. Now,
So they just needed to grit it up a bit.
yeah,
put some
maybe
sand down.
Yeah, some non-slip stuff
Put a
or
bit of
something.
the
Don't
spray
they put
adhesive and some spray.
a glass in it? A glass material
Whoa.
normally?
What? Glass?
No, it's not. Well, it's not chunks of glass, but it's like
This is on the
What
normal
happened just
road.
to
yeah, I
Yeah,
think
to
it's
make it reflective.
bitumen?
Yeah, but it's also there's also a
A non-slip.
it's
I
like
don't
a
know.
hardened plastic as well that's in there.
I don't know, but it was.
I think I know what you mean when they use. I've seen it more in like warehouses and everything. And it's
Yeah.
got that grit to
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I don't think that's what's used on the roads
Okay.
because I've slid along one
Okay.
before
Yeah.
in my thongs.
Sure, we have.
We've all
I'm
been
sure we
there.
all have at some stage.
Sometimes deliberately, but then it'll
And
get you sometimes.
they changed the camber on the track too. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
So to try and stop drivers, what do they call that penalty when you exceed the track
Limit.
Limit, yeah. So previously, the camber on the ripple strip went up. So that if you go up on the ripple strip, that'll put weight onto the outside tyre to give you more traction. They actually made the camber go down. So if you went on the ripple strip, you would lose grip.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, okay.
Was that an accident?
No, they did it on purpose. They actually spoke
Jeez.
about it.
Yeah, well, that'll stop you going exceeding track limits.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, okay. All right. Well, anyway, look, speaking of the Formula One, how do we think the rookies went? How do we think Kimi Antonelli? Big raps for him. I think he did really well.
I think he did too.
I think he got this. Notes may be incorrect. I think he's been put back up to fourth again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think his penalty has been removed, so I think he's gone back to fourth.
What did he get the penalty for?
Yeah, he has. Yeah, he's gone to fourth. I don't know. I can't remember.
Because I remember at the time thinking, okay, if that's what they're going to give it. But yeah, I think he did really well.
Yeah. Gabriel Bortoletto out-qualified his teammate Hulkenberg. Not bad. Not bad at all, I thought. Starting his first F1 race. In the end, I think he came... He crashed out as well. So of the six rookies, only two of them finished. I think it was Antonelli finished and... Ollie Beeman, he came last, but at least he finished. So
Yeah.
he did reasonably well as well. Jack Doohan, what do we think about him crashing out there in the opening lap?
Oh, look, in their defence, Nick, the commentators made a very big deal about the fact that none of them had driven in the rain before. Which seems weird. You'd think that
but training.
That's what I mean.
If our learner drivers have to do X amount of hours in the rain, surely they would.
You would
incorporate that into their training.
They would have a test track there, or they'd have the simulator, or something to teach him how to do it. But
or the real rain too.
Yeah.
Look, at least I can say Jack Doohan's was under race. You know what I mean? Wasn't under safety car. Wasn't under formation. Isaac Hadjar, look, great kid, very young, very impressionable, I guess. But to crash on the formation lap, I don't know. Sorry, that's not Formula One. That's not Formula One. That's ordinary.
Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, and Carlos Sainz. Well, he was in the safety car, but Carlos Sainz has done enough. You know what I mean? He's got the runs.
I know, but it just shows you how slippery it is out there. So you got to be careful throwing the kids under the bus.
Yeah. Okay.
Was the Carlos Sainz video clip that went circulated on social media over the weekend? Was that from Melbourne with his seat being wet?
What? No.
There's like a radio clip.
No, that's Charles Leclerc.
Oh, is that who
yes,
it was?
That's kind of weird. I don't
was
know
that from the weekend?
Yeah, I don't know where that's. I don't know where.
He's like, "There's water on my seat. My seat's wet." And then he's
I didn't see it.
On the radio, he's like, "Oh, it must be the water." He's like, "Thanks for those words of wisdom."
But to be fair to Charles, he's been around long enough. To him, it felt like it was excessive water, but his team made him look like a dill, saying it's raining. But shouldn't Charles know, like, the sort of amount of moisture that comes into the car? That it just felt like he was saying there's water in the car, but it's more. He didn't say it in these words, but it's more than what's normally here.
Yeah, and I didn't get that because it was just a clip that came up on my social media. I thought that there must have been like a line.
But they palmed him off as like a bit of a deal by saying, well, it's raining.
It's the water.
it's water. So anyway, I don't know. That did come out. It was kind of amusing. Liam Lawson crashed out as well. Not too good for the number 2 Red Bull driver. And as we said before, Ollie Bierman came home last, but at least he finished the race. Is it a good time now to play the video? Johnny has sent through a video. Should we play that? This is on our social media, but we'll play this video Johnny has sent through.
Hey, TNP team and fans. I know you're probably going to cover the Grand Prix over the weekend and maybe a bit of the Supercars, but I just wanted to give my take on the weekend's events, and I'm going to give you a spoiler alert for the rest of the year on all the MotoGP results as well. So first things first, Lawson's got to go. That performance is not good enough for a number 2 driver in Red Bull. Get Tsunoda in there now while wasting any more time. Like we said last year, everyone picked on Daniel and said if it was anyone else who would have been out, well, he was warranted to be in that seat and the seat he was in. So, yeah, I don't think Lawson should proceed any further. Get him out, get Tsunoda in there, and relegate him back into the number 2 team. Or even more so, get rid of him and get Colapinto in there and sort of take the pressure off Doohan for the rest of the year. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. V8 Supercars, yeah, not racing in the rain. It's probably sitting on the fence a bit, but I think they should have gone for it. Yeah, some probably say they shouldn't have, but yeah, with the race, you got people paying money, and I think they should have at least given it a crack. So yeah. And MotoGP, Nick, I'm going to tell you, I know you always need notes for MotoGP. Well, I'm going to give you the notes for the whole year. Marquez first, Marc Marquez first, Alex Marquez second, Pecco Bagnaia third. Just put that for every race for the rest of the year, and we can give Marquez the trophy now if you want, because I can't see that order changing whatsoever during the year. He's just a freak on that bike, and I mean, we are Ducati fans being Italian, but yeah. The only hope there is when Jorge Martin hopefully gets better and comes back, maybe we've got to jump on the Aprilia bandwagon and hopefully he takes the fight to Marquez. So, yeah, that's sort of my sort of take on the weekend's proceedings. Oh, I forgot the most important bit, or probably least important bit, is I told you so. Hamilton, Ferrari, same thing. Alonso, Vettel, Hamilton, we're going to just relive the same thing over and over again. They're going to be, fourth constructor behind Williams this year. You heard it here first. Thanks, guys.
Jeez, that's harsh.
That's Johnny. It's very enlightening there from Johnny.
What do you think about the Liam Lawson deal?
I think he's got a lot of work to do. Let's put it that way. I wasn't terribly impressed, and I never liked the fact that. Well, he took Daniel's seat in the Toro Rosso.
Yeah, but didn't he hop in and place like at his first race?
I can't remember. He did reasonably well last year.
And then they gave the drive to someone else that had a richer dad. I think that's how that went down. I'm pretty sure that's how it went down.
Yeah, look, anyway, Perez, he filled in... I don't know. I don't remember. I don't recall exactly how it went down. But the point you make... We probably need to give him more time in the numbers.
He's the Kiwi kid,
Yeah.
I've followed his career like a season or so ago, and I think that he's got what it takes. But, it's hard. If you haven't tested in the wet and you get thrown in the deep end, I think we just got to keep an eye on him. Look, if he flounders for the next 3 or 4 races and they don't get a place, then yeah. But yeah, I kind of agree with Johnny on the Ferrari deal. I don't think the big deal of getting Hamilton over there, maybe it might have helped their car sales in England. But that's about it.
But what do you think of their relationship that he had with his engineer for this race? It was like kind of a bit frosty, wasn't it? There was a lot of...
Well,
okay, I get it. Okay, yes, all right, I hear you. Yep. Just let me alone. I'm all right. I'm good to go. There was a lot of that going on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I suppose that, trying to find your ways to understand each other's preferred ways of communication.
They're both new to the team. Lewis is new to the team, and Riccardo Adami, he's new to the team as well, new in that role. So
you've got arrogant Pom up against hot-blooded Italian.
Yeah,
not going to pan out.
But sometimes, one thing I've learnt working for an Italian company previously, sometimes translation from the Italian language to English doesn't translate well. But do you know what I mean?
Might come across a bit blunt.
Yeah, and arrogant as well.
Yeah.
So I think Lewis will find his way there. They may be better off communicating. It will get to a point where they might have to communicate in Italian to him, perhaps.
With a translator.
I don't know. It's not a difficult language to learn, but anyway.
Google Translate too. Just...
It'd be interesting to watch that.
Zelensky and Putin.
Anyway, that'll be
hang on, they can both talk Russian.
That's right. Anyway, standings are Norris on 25 points, Verstappen on 18.
We didn't actually talk about who won.
So Lando Norris won the race.
Lando Norris in McLaren.
Yep. Oscar Piastri in 9th. Had that spin, which was really unfortunate.
Max Verstappen in Red Bull.
Max Verstappen in Red Bull in 2nd. George Russell 3rd in the Mercedes.
And that's it.
Kimi Antonelli 4th in the Mercedes. Alex Albon, that is awesome to come 5th in the Williams. Well done, Alex Albon.
Yeah, but the Williams is a better car this year.
It is. It's a formidable... And Alex is a formidable driver.
Yeah.
And how's this? Lance Stroll... He'd be happy with that. 6th in the Aston Martin, given his teammate wasn't able to finish and crashed out, Fernando Alonso. So well done to Lance Stroll.
You got to love that Leclerc came in front of Hamilton, don't you? You got to love that. You have to. That's the best.
Look, I mean, it's an interesting one. Ferrari won't be happy with that. Won't be happy at all with that. But
no, they won't be happy with Hulkenberg coming in front of Leclerc. That's...
So, a lot of work for Ferrari to do, and Piastri, I'm just hoping that he will make amends for that by the next race.
I don't understand. He was right there for a lot of the race. What happened?
It looked like he just hit that white line as well. If you look at the right rear, it's right on that white line when he spins out. So it's quite possible but you know, that kid would never, ever, ever blame anything else but himself.
Yeah.
Even if it was the white line, even if it was a car problem, that kid would never blame anyone or anything else apart from himself.
Anyway, let's hope. It'd be great to see an Australian up there on the podium.
Yeah, it'd be nice. 30 years now at Melbourne, and we still haven't seen one, so that would be nice. All right, moving back over. NHRA. Sorry, my apologies. Gator Nationals. I'll throw it over to you, Michelle.
No problem. So weekend before last, March 6th through to 9th, we had the 56th annual Amali Motor Oil NHRA Gator Nationals at Gainesville Raceway in Florida. Marking the season opener for the NHRA Mission Foods Drag Racing Series, the event concluded with thrilling performances across all major categories.
In Top Fuel, defending Top Fuel world champion Antron Brown secured his... I need better glasses. 81st career win. That's crazy, hey.
Is it really 81 he's won?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yep. Edging out Sean Langdon in a closely contested final. Brown's winning pass of a 3.673 at 300. I need to double my glasses at 333 mile an hour, narrowly defeating Langdon's 3.684 at 332 to reach the final. Brown overcame Krista Baldwin, Clay Milliken, and Steve Torrance. Steve Torrance, good to see he's going to do a full season this season. Again. We're just swapping laptops.
See confirmation of that.
Michelle's got this one set up for old person.
The number 11 font isn't large enough for you. So then in funny car we had Chad Green claimed his first Gator Nationals victory in the funny car. He piloted his Ford Mustang to a 392 with a 1 second run at 329 miles per hour in the final round, defeating Ron Capps, whose car encountered issues and slowed to a 650 at...
Now, isn't it crazy? No force cars with the dominating performance that we've seen from the Proc Rocket, as they call it. Just incredible that Chad Green, I mean, those guys, if they can do that, they're going to be a real challenger this season. You know, we know Capps has done it. Capps has done it as a privateer.
Yeah.
He's won the championship. But that was just incredible to see those two in the final, because last season, Capps had a bit of a lackluster season. It wasn't really, compared to the big run for the final the year before when they ended up just pipping everyone at the post.
Yeah.
So, incredible.
And, of course, because we had Austin Prock out in round 1.
I know,
unbelievable.
unbelievable.
He just blew the tyres off on the launch, didn't he? And with Jack Beckman, he lost against Matt Hagan in second round.
Hagan, again, big challenger. We keep an eye on that team definitely this season.
The Chad Green win was a popular one, but...
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Very popular.
He's just a really likeable guy.
Yeah.
And this is the second win for him, I believe. Second career win.
Yeah, it is second.
He was in the finals with his former crew chief. Trying to think of the name. Levi Sharp. Wilkerson.
Tim
Wilkerson. Yeah, I believe it was those two in the final last time. In Pro Stock, Dallas Glenn emerged victorious in Pro Stock, defeating Greg Anderson in the final round. Glenn's Chevy Camaro posted a 6.54 with a 9 at 211, while Anderson's car broke, preventing a competitive run. I am really looking forward to seeing Pro Stock this season. So you got some great old names in there, and once again, great to see the Anderson team in both spots in the final. Fantastic.
Yeah, and just adding to that, we had Greg Anderson. He set a new Pro Stock world record in qualifying with a 6:44 with a 3 at 213 mile per hour.
Wow, that's fast.
Yeah, and it was actually Dallas Glenn said to him at the end of that pass, he's like, "Can't you just leave something for me?" So it's pretty funny to see that when it came down to eliminations, Dallas Glenn was able to have that over Greg Anderson.
You can guarantee Greg would have been on that dyno every day of the off season, just searching.
Well, that's what a champion does.
Yeah, I mean, he's been at it for many years, but to see that you can still be able to find that power.
Isn't it? It's awesome to see the old guys still in there, punching above their weight, you know what I mean? It's unbelievable.
Well, let's just remember who had bids on him for the championship last year.
You did,
I did.
I remember that.
And he's come out strong for the first round.
You were victorious still.
Yes.
And then for Pro Stock Motorcycle, no surprises really, is it? We had IHRA continue his dominance at Gainesville by winning the Pro Stock Motorcycle category for the third consecutive year. In a nail-biting final, Herrera's Suzuki clocked a 6:72 second run at 200 mile per hour, narrowly defeating Matt Smith's 6:72 with a 3 at 203 mile per hour.
I think this is going to be the more of the same as last season.
Yeah.
The Smith Herrera battle. Smith definitely making the horsepower. I mean, a good 3 mile an hour over Herrera's Suzuki, but just a bit slower light there. He went like an 0.63, I think it was.
0.60 against Haight Gage's 0.30. It was really tight, but yeah, it's that's what it's going to come down to for the two of them for the whole season, like we saw last season, really.
I think the tragedy was the Trip Tatum crash.
Yeah, luckily no injuries there, but it was a nasty one, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I always look for the reaction of other people's, and Bobby Lagana on the start line there, and you just seeing the emotion in his face and the concern and worry. When we can see it as viewers from our angle, but then you have the crew that know more to exactly what's going on and at what point, if it hits, at what speed, at where, and that just his facial expression just was heartbreaking to even watch.
So what happened there? He just kept in it a bit too long because it looked like he had a pedal.
I think what they were saying is that he had a pedal and then he wasn't straight when he came back on, so he hadn't straightened it up enough before he went to go back on for the pedal.
Yeah.
So
it looked like a bit of damage, but nothing that wasn't too irreparable.
No, the car's already getting fixed as we speak, but it's just trips of they're a low budget team, privateer team. You know what I mean? It's and they're always competitive. That's the amazing thing about Trip Tatum is that they'll feature in the results. They're not cannon fodder. A lot of guys get into this deal and they can't qualify. I mean, I've done it in Door Slammer where you get enough bits together and you go down there and you can't make the field. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas these guys are really competitive, very likeable, very loved by the fans.
Yeah, so the rear left wheel, that exploded once it hit the wall. So possibly some rim and axle damage there. But then the front nose then went into the opposite side wall there. So whether there's some chassis damage at the front of that.
That was nasty. What it done to that rim. It was
But then keeping in mind with that front nose cone area of the dragster, these dragsters, they're designed to break in 3, I believe, into thirds. So when you think of the repair, quite possibly there's a mark that you can...
they front half them through the season. They're only allowed to do X amount of runs because of fatigues from the bending. Now, interesting point, Angel Sampay was disqualified over a fuel temperature infraction.
Yes.
Okay? So they accepted that and moved on. But I'd just like to point out, I don't know if you guys are aware, so last season, it had been in the rules for a while. The top alcohol is traditionally the stepping stone to, top fuel or nitro funny car, right? So the difference in the old days was, when they were mainly blown alcohol. With a blown alcohol car, you've got your handbrake on, your clutch in, and you're holding the revs. And you launch by swapping feet like you would on a manual, right? Whereas in a fuel car, you at idle, you go into stage or pre-stage, you turn the second pump, or you turn the pumps wide open because the crew chief sets them for the burnout and for just idling at pre-stage, and your foot's off the clutch pedal, and as soon as you see the flash of amber, you go wide open throttle. Right? That's how you launch a fuel car. Whether it be nitro funny car or top fuel. So injected nitro cars are very similar to that. Okay, and for years there was only ever injected nitro in the dragster ranks. So a while back they changed the rules to allow them into the funny cars, and no one really took up the deal. Now in the last season or so, we've seen a couple of guys come out. And I don't know what the NHRA's done, but in the pre-testing before the Gators, they smashed the record. Like, they went I think it was like a 5:20 or something, which, as we know, we held the world record over here with Craig Glasby's car. 5:38, I think it was, or 5:36, somewhere around there. And the record was reset. But we haven't seen performances go into those numbers for a long time. But these injected nitro cars are just killing it. Now, on race day, I don't think they did that well because they suffer the same fate that the injected nitro dragsters do. They get on the tyre pretty easily, and that power management becomes a bit of an issue. But it will be interesting to watch. But it is good for the sport, in my opinion, even though you are going to have to find that parity between the injected nitro and the blown alcohol. And the blown alcohol, definitely more fun to watch. But for driver training, to get someone into the seat of a car that's going to leave the same as a nitro funny car and that you stage in the same manner, I think it's a fantastic move forward.
So are you saying, because they actually did the fuel temperature test while she was in the staging lanes?
Yes, so this has been a rule for a long time.
Yeah.
The reason that rule exists, and I probably maybe shouldn't say this, but if you chill the fuel,
yes,
you'll go faster.
I didn't know that was a thing. I mean, we always cover it so it's out of the sun. So what Angel and her team have come forward with saying is that because this top alcohol dragster, it's actually the top fuel dragster. It's set up for top fuel. So with her plans of then stepping into top fuel, they have a new fuel tank being made, but the requirements were still set on the car for top fuel, and I think there is some more like insulation around it or different breathe valves or something like that that might be a bit different that they need to have for the new one. So she said, yeah, a new one's being made, and this is something that we didn't see would be an issue for now. We knew that it's in the process, but yeah, it's unfortunate.
Could be, or they might have just been cheating on it.
It was apparently significantly low. So they say, it needs to be 50 degrees Fahrenheit, of course. If it's going to be 49.9, then you're out. But apparently it was significantly lower. So you're not going to go out there and...
Maybe someone had their beer on it. I don't know. Could have been.
Well, look, they had some wet weather over there too in Gainesville during the racing, and so maybe they were expecting the sun to be out a bit more, or used to it already being out a bit more to add to that heat. Maybe they were moving too quickly through the staging lanes and weren't expecting to.
I didn't know about this.
Through. You didn't know about that?
No, I didn't. So I'm reading this for the first time. Robert Hight has announced his resignation as president of John Force Racing.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw that the other day.
Yes.
So his health, correct me if I'm wrong, but his health hasn't been right.
He hasn't come forward with saying the health condition for why he stepped back as a driver, but he has now gone on to say that being out of the car last year made him realise that there's other things that he wants to do. He's quoted, especially with my wife and my family. And so, yeah, he was there to... stepped back from driving last year, of course, and we had Austin Prock fill the seat, but he still stayed on as president, and he was really pivotal in the role of recruiting Jack Beckman to the team after John Force's crash. But yeah, he won't be there anymore, and he's been with John Force Racing since 1995. Started off as
I remember that. He's been there a long time.
Started off as a clutch guy, I think, yeah?
Yeah, in the crew, and then progressed into the role of facility manager. And then in 2004, he was the first designated test driver of the cars before making his competitive debut in 2005.
Yeah, I remember meeting him in 2005. At Route 66 in Chicago.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Well, throughout his driving career, he amassed 65 NHRA event victories.
Wow.
And
That's
he
crazy.
held the Funny Car World Championship title in 2009, 2017 and 2019.
Wow.
He missed out by a handful of points the year the Caps won, so not last year, the year before. It was, and then there was talk about, the countdown and this and that, and I remember thinking, and I was thinking exactly the same thing as everyone else was thinking, was how many times the Caps miss out because of the countdown.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. But Bob Mikalia, is that how we pronounce his name? He's been announced as the new president for John Force Racing.
I scrolled too far, so I missed it. There it is. I don't know.
John Force, when he came out to announce that, he just said, Bob's going to be my go-to guy, and he's been with me a long time, and so he's going to be steering the ship now. And, just something very off the cusp like that.
Yeah.
So
I need to check out that video to see how Mr. Force is going these days.
Yeah, I haven't seen videos.
Now, this is very controversial.
Interesting, isn't it?
I'm going to let you take this one on.
Well, thanks. No. Look, I put this in there, but I think everyone who's, follows drag racing is probably a bit curious, thinking what is going on? Because
what happened?
Yeah,
What happened?
Yeah. So the IHRA, American, the International Hot Rod Association, they came forward with a statement saying they're making a landmark move in motorsport by acquiring 7 legendary racing facilities, and it reinforces their commitment to expanding the sport and delivering world-class racing. So the IHRA owner, Daryl Cartel, he announced that the organisation has agreed in principle to purchase 7 drag racing tracks, and that this would mark the first phase of its strategy to position IHRA as a global leader in sports and entertainment. So the new tracks that they listed was National Rail Raceway in Ohio, Maryland International Raceway in MD. I always thought that it was near New York, Maryland.
Is it Maryland?
It's Maryland.
Maryland.
Yeah, Maryland is a
But
state.
I've confused with it's a state, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. Millen Dragway, that's in Missouri. Dragway 42, Ohio. Darlington Dragway, which we all know is in South Carolina. Gallup Motorsport Park, North Carolina. And Kilcara? Whatever. Raceway in Ohio.
Ohio. So 3 of those tracks, being Maryland, Darlington Dragway and Gallup Motorsport Park, they've come forward saying no ownership has
sailed.
Yep, they're not changing ownership. Gallot said, they haven't. It's not official that they've acquired the facility, but Maryland came out saying that they're not aware of its inclusion in the IHRA's announcement before it's published. So they've actually then made a statement saying you need to retract and pull this off, which is really bizarre that the first that they heard of it was when it was, announced from IHRA.
I think the whole thing is a little bit bizarre because if I was doing this, like I kind of get what he's trying to do, but I think it would have been better to lock it all in.
Well, it's a little bit counting your chickens before they hatch, isn't it?
Not just that, you're basically telling the NHRA what your plan is.
Yeah. And go in and offer a sweeter deal if the deal's not done.
Yeah.
This is a public relations nightmare. This is marketing
or
101.
Is it? Or is it?
All the rules have been... No, they look like... they look like deals.
But
there's no other way of saying it.
Public relations nightmare, like if it was to a rumour that had slipped.
Yeah.
But this was their own statement on their website. How did they get this so wrong? To add to it, so Milan and Dragway 42, they've said yes, they're in transition of the process of being acquired by the AHRA.
And no comment from National Trail.
No comment from National Trail or Kilcar. But then I thought that it was very timely, interesting that Albuquerque Raceway, Dragway, Albuquerque have come forward just recently, in recent days, to then say that they're actually moving to NHRA. So they've been with the IHRA for the past 2 years. So to know that they announced on Friday, we're going back to NHRA,
But the IHRA has been in a little bit of turmoil. That it's changed owners.
Yeah, it just changed owners recently. Not that long ago.
But I mean, it's changed several owners in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
It's it's interesting because we were seeing some big moves, and of course with on the mic.
The voice of the NHRA.
Yeah,
Brian Loans?
No.
No. Oh, why have I had a mental blank now? Oh, damn it. I was going to sound so
See
good.
what happens when you leave the NHRA? Everyone forgets.
Yeah.
I've forgotten his name
Trent's
as well.
going to kill me.
God, I can't think of it either. Alan Reinhardt.
That's
to
it, yeah.
the top. Alan Reinhardt, how do we forget? I know more of his catchphrases than I do his name. But, that was I felt like that was such a big move. And then we've got Mike Green's gone across as well, hasn't he? And so we've seen some really big names, and it was there's something brewing. This must be to be able to attract.
There's so much talent sitting there. We saw that at Bradenton in the commentary circles. There are people out there that... were, I wouldn't say they were kicked to the curb, but they weren't considered, and Alan Reinhardt, don't get me wrong, he and Brian Loans, I'm a big Brian Loans fan. Anything Brian Loans does, I follow, all these Dorkomotive podcasts and all that. But yeah, there are some guys like Tony Pedregon that have that in the seat experience, and I don't think you can get better commentary than if you can get a guy that can talk and has got that in the seat experience.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's always beneficial, that's for sure. It was pretty funny though, because they were kind of having a bit of a laugh, Cruz Pedregon, and he was having a bit of a laugh, saying, there's been a lot of changes, and we're what's left type thing. And so. It's you could kind of see that maybe things weren't so clear cut on that end, but the curiosity is just really strong here. What is happening?
The other thing too is the 180-degree focus change, because when it was owned by, I forget the chassis builder's name that owned it recently, Larry Jeffers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? It was going to be, we're going hard after the sportsman market. We're going to run all these big bracket events. It's going to be, really focused. And now it's gone from that to, we're going to turn it back into the old IHRA. We're going to have top fuel. We're going to have, you know what I mean?
They're obviously going hard with their top fuel and nitro with their 10 rounds increased from, was it 3?
But is there enough cars?
Well, it's interesting, I think there's a lot happening behind the scenes, and just before Bob Tasker made his comment and statement after his round, Steve Torrance actually got interviewed after his pass, and I was watching it and I was like, wow, like back to back, and these comments are really like strong comments to be interpreted in which way you're going to take it. Steve's was a bit more left more to your imagination, I suppose. He commented about going out and just trying to find more horsepower and put on a good show for the crowd or something along those lines. But then he left it saying, it's just hard when we're fighting against the organisation. And then he just walked. And you just, it's, I am curious to know whether the IHRA NHRA battle is starting to have a big effect on the race teams. Yeah.
The thing is, though, the one thing that no one's taking into account is that every year there are a given number of parts manufactured. There are a given number of crankshafts. There are a given number of conrods. There are a given number of pistons, blocks, cylinder heads. And we all know anything that runs on nitro, the nitro is just a lubricant. It actually runs on parts. Runs on conrods, pistons, cylinder heads, blocks, cranks. So, is there enough parts to run 2 series?
I hadn't considered that. That's not something that
I didn't really
ever
consider that either.
Like whether there's enough parts to run 2 series.
I thought that there would be a lot of race teams that would also make their own parts.
No, there was Schumacher and John Force Racing were the two that were making, aside from Brad Anderson and Alan Johnson. But, yeah, I mean, like Bill Miller does most of the rods. Bonafonte does most of the clutches and the floaters. And we all have heard the commentators talking to the crew chiefs, and they go, oh, yeah, this batch of floaters, we're pulling out the batch for the championship run. What do they call it?
Saving them.
Yeah, for the playoffs. The countdown, yeah.
Yeah, look, I don't know, but getting back to the track situation as well, these IHRA tracks, do you think that maybe they're bargaining here as well? Maybe they had entered negotiations with the IHRA and now they're bargaining with someone else, or they're using that as a bargaining tool, these 3 tracks?
It was interesting because when the statement came out that Darlington Dragway, it was Darlington Dragway. When it came out, no, we haven't changed ownerships. On the comments, someone posted a photo of the owners of Darlington Dragway with IHRA owner or representatives or something, and said photo taken this morning, and it was like the 4 of them all together, arms over everything. And so it was like, but it's like when we speak about the NHRA Fox Sports things, this doesn't speak well for IHRA. So if they were in some sort of partnership deal with them, why not just say yet to comment?
But what if they pull it off? What if all of these tracks become IHRA tracks?
Well, none of them actually stand out to me as big, round, nitro, top fuel tracks anyway.
No, you're right, but Darlington, Gallett, Millen, and 42 are really well known in the outlaw.
Yeah, I definitely seen Dragway 42 as a big name, but I think what IHRA have the issue of is that whether the tracks that they currently do have, without including these 7, it's whether they have the facilities to be able to hold these Top Fuel events and the Pro Series events, and whether they are actually a full track or 8 mile.
Yeah.
So some of the tracks that are on IHRA's list, as much as they might have really good facilities, they'll only be an 8 mile track.
Those tracks there, you get Clay Millican at those tracks would be full.
Yeah.
There'll be lines.
Rename this one to Millican Dragon.
Yeah.
The other thing we're forgetting here is, well, not forgetting, but we've overlooked, is some of those tracks are in NASCAR
absolutely.
territory,
Yeah.
like the heartland, the heartbeat of NASCAR.
Good old boys.
And that's when you do your cross promotion.
Yeah. And that's what they're targeting, is that NASCAR, especially when NASCAR's not in town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else would you do?
I think what will be really interesting is when IHRA release their calendar, and whether their events are going to, whether they will have their events to work with the NHRAs or against it.
You know what? I think he's onto it, because who owns Clay Millican's team?
Yeah, there's a lot. Well, there's a lot of NASCAR teams coming.
Okay, so that's I've forgotten his name now.
What Rick Hendrick is also owns a few pro stock teams as well now.
Yeah, but it starts with a W. But if Clay Millican, because that guy told him as soon as he took over, what do you need? And they just...
Oh, because, this we should say, because Tony Schumacher's now joined Clay Millican's the team.
Okay,
right?
so if you get Tony Stewart, his wife,
Leah,
Clay Millican, and
Tony Schumacher. That's some big names.
It's some big names, and they could easily have separate operations. The only part that they would not be able to do, well, they could eventually, but they would need 2 lots of crew.
Yeah.
Or maybe they could get away with 1 lot. Yeah, Rick Ware. That's it. Rick Ware Racing. You could have just jumped in with that. You didn't.
Well, but then I might have to then say how I know that name.
But he owns multiple motorsport racing teams, like from Indy 500 all the way through.
Yeah.
Similarly, Tony Stewart. I mean, those guys have got the facility to do it, and they would definitely be popular in those areas.
Yeah, it's this. Things are starting to really align for me, and it's interesting whether it's done like this on purpose. So Tony Schumacher's joining Rick Ware's race team, but it's been announced only part-time. We've got R to Z Strom Racing part-time.
Yes.
We've got Alexis de Jura Racing part-time. There's a lot of races that have been coming forward and announced for this season, but it's part-time.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious to know whether
their old formula worked. Their old formula was Top Fuel, Top Alcohol Funny Car, not Dragster, and Pro Mod, and the mountain motor. We know the mountain motors are ready to go. They're lined up. There's plenty of them out there. They're plenty competitive. Maybe that's the plan. Maybe they're going to go back to the Bill Batter IHRA days, and maybe it'll work.
It's especially if you're. You'd hate to see it, but if one of the issues has been with the diesel costs travelling over east, which is why we had the change from the Gator Nationals being the season opener instead of the Winter Nationals at Pomona, these racetracks are all on the east coast.
Yeah.
And if these races are then happening on the east coast when NHRA's west coast predominantly races are, I just feel like it could end up being a heavy-sided drag racing country.
It was good for the sport before. I mean, you can't argue that when the IHRA and the NHRA were operating, that the sport wasn't booming. That was probably the peak.
Oh, if they can agree and work together.
No, that's the secret is for
them to
not agree and to not work together. And when someone does something, it forces the other one.
Yeah. It's just the calendar. We're going to have to wait
instead
for the
of over
calendar.
here where someone takes something away, then the other one takes something. They're not paying prize money for Super Street. Let's do that too.
It's supposed to be like, it's supposed to be who can be the highest bidder, not the who can take away the most.
Anyway.
And
just some Andrew news while we're here as well, drag racing. 8 times Australian Top Fuel motorcycle champion Chris Matheson, congratulations. He has been inducted into not the Drag Racing Hall of Fame, but the Australian Motorsport Hall of Fame. He's the first Top Fuel motorcycle rider to receive this recognition, and was formally inducted at a special ceremony at the Australian Grand Prix. Congratulations to Chris. That is awesome.
It is awesome, but isn't Chris a Kiwi?
Oh, like, I think we just claim them as our own, though, don't we?
Yeah. I mean, it is awesome to see drag racing
If we
recognised.
took their Pavlova, we can take Chris as well.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
I don't know if we took the Pavlova. I'm not sure about that. I mean, ultimately, it's a meringue, isn't it? It's a meringue that hasn't cooked all the way through.
Why did I think I could debate with you, Simon?
No, it's funny that you mention it because someone brought it up at work last week, and I was like, the Kiwis did? Let me Google this. 6 hours later.
Hey, what's coming up? We've got on the 22nd of March, the Nitro Slam. That's this Saturday, actually. Yes, that's this Saturday. Yep. Top Door Slammer, Nitro Max and Top Fuel motorcycle coming up. And Modified, the war will continue on.
Yes, it shall. Yes, it shall.
Wednesday, 26th of March, is the Northern Steel Perth Car Club Valiant R&S Series Club Days of Thunder movie night at the Galaxy Drive-In. Come down. You can get your tickets online. Go to the Talk and Power Facebook page. There's a link there, and you can get your tickets online. Gates open at 6. Movie kicks off at 7:30 p.m. It's $15 per car. Thanks to our friends at Northern Steel for that. And the 6th of April is coming up very quickly now. So we've got the Max Pinjarra. It's the 6th of April. Can't wait for that. We're all set there. And the Saturday, the 12th of April, is the WA Drag Racing Grand Final. It's the featuring Blowing Alcohol and Jet Dragsters.
Now, that's the combination you want to have. Kerosene and alcohol.
So, and that will be championship deciding.
That is championship deciding.
12th of April.
And points and a half.
Yep.
For the last round.
So it's we've got some big events coming up. I'm looking forward to it. All right. Well, thank you, Michelle, for coming along. Simon, thank you as well.
Not a problem.
Thank you for stepping in for NHRA. Oh, you always step in for NHRA, but you've done a magnificent job.
Yeah, you did. Excellent job tonight.
That's a magnificent job. I was really underprepared myself for this week. So thank you very much.
I was going to thank her off air, but...
Wow. Yeah, no, thanks for that. It's done. I'm just looking at the notes from here. I know you emailed them through, but I didn't get a chance to download them. So, but thank you very much. I can see
that gutted feeling that you're getting now. I get that every episode.
It's even this got highlighted bits as well. So that's.
Well, there was a lot going on with that.
He only reads the V8 supercar stuff. That's the end.
No, I don't. Anyway,
let's just know that he trusts us.
That's true. That's
a
good point.
He'll crop out what he doesn't like anyway.
There's no editing to do on this one.
38 minutes. 38 minutes.
No, that's where Johnny. I just got to cut that pause out where we play.
No. That's how much of my episode you cut out. But anyway,
sometimes I have. Yes. All right. On that note, we'll bring this one to an end. Thanks a lot. We'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. Take care.
See ya.
See ya.